Welcome to this live stream, and what I wanna dig deep into today, or fairly deep into, as we're approaching the new year, and everybody's, probably you're in the you might be starting a new project, or working toward a new promotion, or working toward writing a new book, or starting a YouTube channel. Maybe you're doing that. You're starting some new thing, right? Or you're in the process of it, and you're just, maybe you're in the messy middle of it, and it's you have all these feelings, right? And you have all these emotions that and life that gets in the way. And so what we want to do today, and what I'll talk about today, in this case, is, and what we'll discuss together, is this idea of the sunk cost fallacy. And I want to talk about what's called the sunk cost fallacy. And and it's kind of ambiguous. So, and I'll tell you, it's hard to decide whether you're in the sunk cost fallacy or not. But let me kind of describe what the sunk cost fallacy is, in case you don't know what the sunk cost fallacy is. So, and say you've been working on something. You might have actually, let's just take as an example a business. And I have a lot of experience with this in specifically doing, businesses. So, and doing academic work, by the way, but more so I've experienced this within businesses, like this thought process. So, okay, I put a lot of time into this. I put a lot of energy, and I put a lot of effort, and I also put a lot of money maybe into doing whatever it is that I'm doing. And then I would get to periods and I would ask myself, okay, well, I've been doing this now for what, 5 years, 6 years, but now it's like 10 years or something, right? Okay. And I'm at an okay level where it's like I'm good, and I'm kind of getting decent results, not life changing, but decent. And but if I stop now, I've already put so much time, effort, and energy into this that it would be crazy to stop now. And so that is the sunk cost fallacy. Welcome, Ansh. How to improve critical thinking and memory. Well, critical thinking is a big category with lots of subdivisions. So it's hard to know. It's just a too general of a question, right? Memory, how to improve memory. Again, there are dozens of approaches to improving memory, and so you have to be more specific with your question for me to answer. Because then, yeah, it's fine. You could give me a general question. No problem with general questions. No problem with general questions, but I'll just give you general answers if that's fair. In that case, well, the best ones so there is no best critical thinking skill, and there's no best memory skill. I will get back to our main topic for a moment. It's all contextual. It's all based on the context. So it's based on there. Of course, you want to practice a little bit of everything, but it's just like choosing a field, right? This does relate to kind of our main topic here. It's just like choosing a field. What's the best field to go into? What's the best path to follow in life? It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. There is no best path. It just doesn't exist. What is it contextual to? It's contextual to the person. It's contextual to your current experience, maybe your current skill level. To some extent, your likes and dislikes, right? That is important to some extent. And it's contextual to a lot of things. So the more context we have, the more we can understand what the best approach is. And that'll be just I know maybe it's an unsatisfying answer, but it's the true answer. I mean, of course I could definitely give you kind of a fudged answer to that. But it won't be very helpful. I'm giving you probably what I believe to be the most genuinely helpful and truest, most intellectually honest answer. So feel free to formulate. Well, I will tell you what is a form of critical thinking. I actually talk to my students about this all the time when I'm teaching one-on-one. I tell them, be more specific. So I'll tell people, like, okay, summarize this passage, or what's the main point that this person is making? What are the 3 bullet points? and they'll go, well, this happened, and then this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this is students of all ages. It doesn't matter, college and smaller, younger kids. Food nutrition and dietetics. Welcome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Welcome here. So I tell them this all the time. No. Those are all details. Be more specific. Or be more specific to what exactly is the main point. And so I will tell you that is actually a critical thinking skill. The ability to filter information, to filter out all the information and understand, okay, what is the most important point that I want to make here, right? What is the thing that I want to get across? It's a part of communication, but narrowing that and filtering out the most relevant information and the least relevant information, it's a huge writing skill. All right, it's a huge writing skill. It's a huge communication skill, of course. And that is something that I teach in my Critical Thinking Academy, but it is. However, it's an important critical thinking skill, or the root of that is critical thinking skills, to be able to reflect and think about, okay, well, what can I infer? What can I not infer? What do I have evidence for? What are all the details, and how do they connect? Massive critical thinking skill. That's why I think, of course, the math and STEM and everything like that, science subjects, very, very important for certain aspects of critical thinking. But humanities gives us a ton of tools. I would say probably philosophy. Philosophy is so underrated. It's not even funny. Philosophy is such an underrated topic of study, because if you want to learn critical thinking, it's philosophy. That's where you learn it, is philosophy. But anyway, kind of going to our topic, getting back on our topic, because you got me on a tangent a little bit, but it's fine. It's a live stream. Like, if if you're rewatching the live stream, then that's cool. I've never rewatched a live stream. I don't know. Maybe I have rewatched. I stand corrected. I have rewatched. I have watched other people's recorded live streams before. But so anyway, you can skip forward and backward, and that's fine on these live streams. So let's get back to our topic. So in terms of, there's kind of like that peak when you start a project. Yeah, you bet, Ansh. Yeah, you bet. Sorry if I sounded too harsh, by the way. Yeah. Okay. So you watch on 2x. Yeah, 2x speed. That's smart. So in any case, when you start with a project, you're super motivated, and there's actually a lot of psychological literature on this too. I'm forgetting the exact authors that have done most recent studies on motivation and project-based learning and these kinds of things. I can get citations for you guys if you'd like, but motivation, right, is very, very high when you start a project. When you're getting into or start anything, it tends to be higher. It's not always high. But then you get to the middle and you're consistently trudging along and, get to this low peak. Well, I think most of the time, let's be honest, most of the time you're spending time in that low peak. And here's where what I was talking about before, like the sunk cost fallacy. This comes in, and this is part of critical thinking, okay? The sunk cost fallacy, and avoiding it is part of critical thinking. The sunk cost fallacy, and I just described it before, is basically pulling you in this direction to continue this, regardless of, the effort that you've already put in, the time, the money. What I've always done, when I've gotten to that point where I'm thinking that way, one is, and this may really help you if you're in this point with anything that you're working on. When I've gotten to that point with anything, when I've gotten to that point with anyone, I have basically, I got distracted. Aviva Viscera, I'll answer your question. It's a good question. It's a good question. Very, very good question. Okay, so very, very good question, by the way, and I will answer it. So I've gotten to that crossroads and I've asked myself this important question. Okay, am I really, what am I balancing here in terms of the cost? Am I justifying, I've put so much time into this, so that's why I'm going to continue to do it? Or am I following a more rational kind of path of thinking, which is, oh, I should follow this, I should continue to follow this because it really is aligned with my purpose. And I know that's very esoteric kind of sounding thinking, but I can justify that. This is not the time to go into purpose and what purpose is and all that stuff. But is it truly aligned with my purpose? Right? And there have been several times where I've gotten to that crossroads and I've thought, no, actually what I'm doing right now, and I had to be really honest, because it's painful sometimes to be that honest with yourself, because you've been doing something for such a long time, and you really put your hopes in this thing, and it's painful to be that honest with yourself. But here's where you can kind of take that pain away a little bit. Here's how you want to think. Even if this thing is not within my purpose right now, what do when I walk away from this, I'm probably going to have some skills that I can use from this, that I've learned tremendously, even if I failed at this thing or it wasn't for me, that I can apply to future projects, to apply to things that I do have purpose in, right? Here's the alternative then. Here's the alternative. Here's the other fork of that. Maybe your answer is yes, it is actually in tune with my purpose. It is in line with my purpose, all right? Well, in that case, then what you have to do is you also have to be honest with yourself. Have you really put in, and again, I've had to be honest with myself, have I really put in not the work, not the effort, it's not about just effort, but the detail, the level of detail that I need to pay attention to in order to succeed at this thing? Or are there areas where I'm just kind of like half-assing it? Right? And you all know, like, be honest with yourself. Are there areas where you're just kind of like you're putting in a lot of effort in one aspect of something, but you're kind of just like, maybe half-assing another, right? There are study sessions you could be going to. There are extra courses you could be doing. There are more books. There are more conversations with people you could be having, right? There are more fine details. Let's say if you're building a YouTube channel, because this is my focus right now. Are there more fine details? Could you research more thumbnails out there? Could you do more research, more like maybe not do the same type of research every time? Maybe check multiple sources, maybe run it by, maybe have improve your system where you run ideas by people as well as, look at the trends and all this stuff beforehand, right? Could you be doing something better and adjusting something? That's the idea of continuous improvement, right? And so you have to be honest with yourself. And usually the good news is the answer is no, right? That you're not doing those things, right? That you're not doing those things, or the answer is yes. If you posed it as are there other things that I could be doing that I haven't done? That usually that feeling of, oh, I've tried everything, I've done everything, is purely an emotion. And when we feel that way, we have to step back and say, okay, is that true? Have I really done everything? And usually it's not the case. Sometimes it is. Okay, sometimes it is. And there are cases where that is, and that's a different story. But most of the times it really isn't. You haven't tried everything. Now, Aviva, to answer your point. So you asked, what is the importance of a tutor when all of learning is inherently a process of organizing information into your own map of knowledge, which is truly diverse? Well, you answered your own question. Because knowledge and learning styles are so diverse, and learning needs are so diverse, a really good tutor or teacher can sit with you and identify, what is a good teacher? Part of being a good teacher is being able to sit with somebody and within 10 to 15 minutes, be able to identify, oh, this person's learning style is this. Oh, this is this person's knowledge gap. Oh, this is this person's motivation level. And kind of take all these things into consideration, and then be able to help design a learning plan, and then help you follow it, based on those needs, based on what that teacher has found, right? Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're good at self-study, then, and you feel like you can just do it all on your own, that's great. Typically, people can just speed up their learning process by having a teacher. I'm not saying you have to, but you know. So let's take a look. Rajesh, welcome. So Rajesh, you said whatever other people may say, your efforts for advocacy of critical thinking is refreshing and so much needed. I'll recommend you to write a book that distills your perspectives on critical thinking. I'm actually in the process, the very, very beginning process of writing a book, or really doing the legwork, not really any writing yet, for on not specifically critical thinking. Critical thinking will be a part of it, but about intelligence, the topic of intelligence. Nazit, or a person can just study themselves and save money on a useless tutor. I will say some teachers are really, I can understand the frustration with teachers out there, or like people's experiences in education system. This is my dog trying to bother me, by the way. She wants me to take her outside. Whenever I get on this live stream, she always wants me to take her outside. Diraj, I will answer your question. I can understand your people's frustration, or your frustration, Nazit, with the education system, or with teachers or with tutors. Most teachers, I don't want to say most teachers. A lot of teachers, and I've experienced them myself. This is how they teach. This is how they teach, and I've witnessed it. I've witnessed it firsthand. Like people that I've worked with in the past, like colleagues of mine, and like stuff like that in different teaching environments. Okay, class. So the answer to, number one is B. Why is it? Well, because of this and this. Okay, let's move on. Question 2. What's the answer? Oh, it's C. Why? Because this and this. And so there's not really a full explanation that takes into account how everybody understands that thing. Right? I don't know about your experience, but even way back when I was taking the SAT, when I was being taught, I was being taught certain things. I think on the math, historically, I've struggled more with math than I think. Now I would say I'm about equal, but still more proficient. Still, I would say more proficient with verbal stuff. Still. Although I would say I'm decent at math now. I'm decent at math, but basically, I used to look at these math concepts, and they would do a problem on the board, right? And I'd be like, they just do it step by step. Oh, and this, and then we do this, and then you can write this, and okay, and then here's the answer. I was like, I don't know what you just did. Okay, cool, but how am I supposed to repeat that now? So actually how I teach, and I'm not just plugging myself, but this is just from my experience. How I teach any topic now, and this goes for when I teach students in Critical Thinking Academy here. I teach so that they can reproduce the content themselves. So the idea is, if you want to learn, you should learn with the objective, and we're all students, so we should think of ourselves as students. Our learning objective should be to be able to reproduce the content. So for instance, an easy example is a math problem. So if you're writing on a board, your goal should be then to go back and be able to, step by step, not only reproduce those steps, but actually at each step, be able to explain clearly the reasoning behind each step, right? And if you can't do that, right, and that applies to, I would say, most things that we're learning. If you really can't do that, you really don't understand the topic yet. All right, so, but you can, right? You can grow into it. And again, that is what a good teacher will do. And actually, this is what I do with students too. They hate it. At first. They come to like it. But you'll see why I say they hate it. And I'll answer your questions, Dheeraj. But when they answer an answer, whether it's right or wrong, this is what I do. I don't tell them the right answer. I don't tell them the right answer most of the time. Sometimes I do for sake of time or whatever in different contexts, but most of the time I don't even tell them the answer. When they give me an answer, I will tell them, okay, argue it for me. Tell me why you're right. Tell me why you're right. I'm not going to tell you if you're right or wrong. Just tell me. Argue for your point, right? Argue it out. And what's going to happen is they're forced to think. Like for once, so think about like where you're not thinking. Where are you just automatically going through a process and you're not thinking about the process, but it would actually help you to think through that process, right? To stop and audit that process and think it through. Again, this goes along with the topic today. For instance, you might be thinking, I'm working very hard at something. I'm working very hard at, and practicing this skill, and I keep practicing, and no matter how hard I practice, I can't get it. Well, have you ever stopped to audit each step of your process and actually make a coherent argument, right? As to, okay, why am I doing that step? Why am I taking that step? Because if you can't understand very clearly why you're taking that step and define it, maybe the step either shouldn't be there or should be refined, or you should be able to come up with a reason for why that step exists, right? And so this is all a part of the learning process. That's one of the fastest ways to adjust. Like when you're stuck like that, you audit your process, right? You audit your process. Okay, never mind. Just something came up. So, how is your morning routine for productivity? Question, how do you bring clarity for a general confusion of what to do next thing? Or I think what to do next, right? Okay, I'll talk about productivity. I think I'm fairly productive. I mean, productivity is measured, I'll start here. Productivity is basically measured in the sense that, first you have to define the end goal very clearly. You have to define the desired objective. Okay, so with respect to the desired objective, and sorry, that's my heater. I can't help it, but it will go off soon. With respect to the desired objective, is it clearly defined, right? So for me, it's pretty clearly defined, right? You can't be productive unless you actually have those objectives clearly defined. Once you do, you can measure everything you do against those objectives. And it might be, part of being productive might be like spending time with family, right? It might be, yes, completing a project, but you have to think about what is the end goal for all of those things. As much as I try to avoid like self-helpy stuff nowadays, I will say what's it called? The Eisenhower matrix, and in what Stephen Covey talks about it in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That Eisenhower matrix of plotting out, right? What's going to be, what are your roles or goals? What is it? Goals before roles. Yes, you define your goals, and then you define your roles or what you're going to do, and you put them in each of those 4 quadrants. If you don't know what that is, the Eisenhower quadrant, just look it up. Eisenhower quadrant. Very, very simple. So Devil298, welcome to the channel. So this channel is about critical thinking, improving your critical thinking and actually spreading the message of critical thinking, and making it into a movement. That is my goal, to make critical thinking into a movement that more and more people embrace and adopt and change the world. So welcome to the channel. So feel free. We're talking now a little bit about productivity because the question came up. But then how do I make myself a little bit more productive? Now, I work out every morning, and that's number one. I do work out. So I work out, and 5 days a week. 5 days a week. And needless to say, yeah, I can tell you about my own anecdotal experience, but you kind of know how I feel. If you watch the channel enough, you know how I feel about just an anecdotal experience. Yes, I can tell you, I feel much more focused, much more productive, and I am much more productive when I work out that 5 days a week. Now, what does the science say too? The science agrees. The science is very clear in terms of the brain benefits for exercise. And it doesn't need to be so intensive. But anybody who wants to improve their thinking ability and their cognitive function, exercise. It's like the miracle drug, if there were a miracle drug, right? For exercise. Hello, welcome, Jennifer. Welcome to the chat and welcome to the channel. Yeah, so we discuss critical thinking here, improving critical thinking ability, right? So, uh, King Nadish, I think I remember your name. It's been a while, and there have been so many new additions to the channel. So I apologize, but I think I remember. I recall your username. Um, so let's see. Okay, great. Awesome. You're an AI engineer. I love it. I love it. AI engineers here. That's awesome. STEM people in the house. Um, yeah, so how do you become more eloquent? I will get to that. So, other thing is healthy diet, but I also schedule everything. I schedule everything, but I think also the key for my own productivity is I schedule everything, but also I actually purposely have one whole day, and it's for me it's Saturdays, just to not schedule anything, just let it flow. And I think I feel like I just need that just that little bit of freedom in my schedule that I give myself in order to actually stay productive, recover, recharge. So it's about scheduling things, but even scheduling a day to not schedule yourself, if that makes sense. So, um, okay, so how do you become more eloquent? So I would say, Jennifer, that one of the best ways to become more eloquent is to practice writing, not just speaking. Like yes, you can practice speaking, but you can actually practice writing essays, right? And if you're not used to writing, you can and make it into a project. You could start a blog, right? What do you like to talk about? Right? What do you like to discuss? Is it politics? Is it science? You know, um, is it dogs? Right? Well, like, what is it that you feel that makes you more like excited, right? Practice writing and practice reading your writing. And I've actually worked with lots of students on writing as well, so I'm kind of familiar with this. What this trains you to do, which is a really good which is a really, really good skill for eloquence in terms of delivery, is it gets you good at summaries, making summaries, summarization. And summarization is, I believe, one of the most underrated skills to develop for eloquence, for having a thoughtful discussion, for delivery, for getting your point across effectively. And why is that? Because most of us don't really understand or are really adequately trained on how to differentiate a main idea from a detail or like a central point from a detail. And when we speak, one of the reasons we're not eloquent is we end up, and I'm just speaking freely on this live stream, so I don't know how eloquent I am here. But here's the thing. I try to be eloquent in other places, but here I'm more like having a conversation with you guys. So in terms of getting your point across, what most of us do is, and why we're not eloquent most of the time, is we're spouting off details. Oh, here's a detail. Here's a detail. Oh, here's another detail. Oh, I thought of this other detail, right? And we're all in a jumbled mess with what we want to communicate. Getting in the habit of writing, or like writing, and getting in the habit of making outlines of what we want to write about or what we want to get across. That's just actually training our minds. It is. It's actually quite literally rewiring circuits in our brain to train certain pathways to be better at that skill. That's the truth. That like neuroscientifically, that's the truth. So that's my simple answer. I mean, because you asked a general question, but that's my simple answer. And AI is good for now, but I fear AGI. Yeah, AGI is a real concern. AGI actually is a real concern. Artificial general intelligence. So part of the reason for that is, and this is a completely different topic, I guess. Part of the reason for that, I believe, is that we still don't know, and I know maybe a lot of you who maybe study certain aspects of intelligence, you might yell at me for this. We still don't know, but I have a point, all right? We still don't know exactly what intelligence is, All right. So, okay, I hear people saying, "Well, no, it's cortical. It's all about cortical density. It's the PFIT model. Oh no, it's this or that." Okay, I gotcha. I also know all that stuff. I also am very familiar with all that research. The thing is that why do I say that? Well, so artificial intelligence exhibits certain abilities that you could classify as certain aspects of what's called like crystallized intelligence or fluid intelligence, but then it lacks certain key parts to this point of crystallized and fluid intelligence. And then also outside of that, there are other mental abilities that are not just confined to what's typically called general intelligence. Okay, so there are tons of abilities outside of general intelligence that are not locked in that specific trait. And so, the danger that I see, and I'm not an AI expert. We got an AI engineer. I don't know if you're still on here. You're the expert. I know I know basics of machine learning, right? I just know basics of the process, not in the depth that you do. But yeah, I see that as part of the real danger. Is if it just has this ability, but it doesn't have all those other human abilities. I mean, empathy and these kinds of things. It might be dangerous, right, in that way. So, um, so yeah, so basically that is hopefully this live stream was really helpful. Smart era, is that smart era like era like ERA? Awesome. All right, Kamit, welcome. So, and thanks to our top fans. Thanks to everybody who subs to the channel. Really appreciate all of you. Love having conversation with you every single you know every single Wednesday. So, guys, if you want to work with me personally, feel free to check out the Critical Thinking Academy. We just had a lot of people sign up this weekend and excited to start a whole new round of classes. So that's really exciting. But yeah, welcome, guys, to my channel. Check it out. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I love to hear from you and answer questions by email as well. So yeah, love all you guys. I will see you next time. Take care.